I'm Madison Foster, 32 years old. 6 words from my sister destroyed my dream vacation and cost me $13,000. Cancel Italy or Dad gets hurt. Those words came at 2:47 a.m., 3 days before my flight to Rome. A trip I'd saved for all year, planned down to every museum visit, every restaurant reservation. I believed her. I trusted her. Within 20 minutes, I'd wired every penny of my vacation fund to her account. 3 days later, while I sat at my desk eating a sad desk salad, champagne glasses clinked in cruise photos on Instagram. My sister, her husband, and his entire family were toasting their well-deserved break on a Royal Caribbean ship, paid for with my father's emergency money. But what happened at my promotion dinner 2 months later made her regret every stolen cent. Before we dive in, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. I'd love to know where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let me tell you how family betrayal taught me the most expensive lesson of my life. The Capitol Grill downtown had never looked more elegant. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over 40 guests gathered to celebrate my promotion to senior marketing director. My company had reserved the private dining room, complete with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city skyline. Colleagues raised their glasses. My new boss, Jennifer, made a toast about Madison's exceptional leadership, and for once, everything felt perfect. Then Rachel walked in. My sister arrived 30 minutes late, which was actually early for her. She swept through the doorway in a sequined dress that caught every light, her newly bleached hair styled in waves that must have cost a fortune. Behind her, Brad followed in his too-tight suit, scanning the room like he was calculating the net worth of every guest. "There's my successful baby sister," Rachel's voice carried across the entire room, causing conversations to pause. She air-kissed her way toward me, leaving a trail of heavy perfume. "Sorry we're late. Traffic from the good side of town was just awful." Jennifer, my boss, raised an eyebrow. My colleague Tom whispered something to his wife. The energy in the room shifted, that particular tension when uninvited drama enters a professional space. Rachel grabbed a champagne flute from a passing server without acknowledgement. "Brad, honey, look at this spread. Madison's company really knows how to spend money." She laughed, that specific laugh she used when setting up a public manipulation. "Speaking of which, Madison, we need to discuss that family matter. You know, the ongoing situation." My stomach tightened. She'd chosen this moment deliberately. 40 witnesses, including my new boss, several VPs, and the CEO who'd made a surprise appearance. But as I watched her adjust her new Hermes bag, strange, considering she'd been crying poverty last month, I felt oddly calm. I'd been preparing for this moment for 8 weeks. Family takes care of family, right, Madison? Rachel positioned herself at the center of the room, ensuring maximum visibility. "I mean, that's what Dad always taught us." The mention of our father made several relatives turn their attention fully to our conversation. Aunt Patricia put down her fork. Cousin James stopped mid-sentence. "Especially," Rachel continued, raising her voice slightly, "when some family members have been blessed with such abundance." She gestured around the elegant room. "This promotion must come with quite the salary bump. What is it now, Madison? 6 figures? More?" Brad stepped forward, adding his rehearsed support. "Family is everything. Those who have more should naturally help those who've sacrificed to care for aging parents." My boss Jennifer watched carefully, evaluating. This was my first major event as senior director. How I handled this would matter. "It's been so hard," Rachel pressed on, her voice taking on that martyred tone I knew so well. "While Madison's been climbing the corporate ladder, someone had to be there for Dad. Every doctor's appointment, every emergency, every sleepless night." "That's admirable," Jennifer said politely, though her expression remained neutral. Rachel seized the opening. "Thank you. It's been financially devastating, honestly. But that's what family does. We show up, even when others are too busy with their Italian vacations and career ambitions." The jab about Italy made my hand tighten around my water glass. Several colleagues who knew about my canceled trip exchanged glances. I glanced at my phone. 8:47 p.m. Harold Brennan should be arriving any moment. He'd texted that he was parking. "So, Madison," Rachel turned back to me, loud enough for everyone to hear. "About that monthly support we discussed. 2,000 seems reasonable, don't you think? For Dad's care?" The room held its breath. Looking at Rachel commanding the room, I remembered exactly how we'd gotten here. Growing up, I'd always been the good daughter, the one who didn't make waves, who accepted whatever story I was told. Rachel, 4 years older, had established herself as the family gatekeeper when she moved back home after her divorce 5 years ago. "I'm here with Mom and Dad," she'd say. "You're 3 states away. You don't see what I see." She controlled the information flow like a corporate communications director. When Dad had his mild stroke 2 years ago, I learned about it 3 days later. "Didn't want to worry you during your big presentation," she'd explained. When Mom passed, Rachel handled all the arrangements, then presented me with a bill for half. "You live too far to understand Dad's real needs," became her constant refrain. Every family decision happened without me. Doctor's appointments? Scheduled when I couldn't attend via video. Financial discussions? Too complicated to explain over the phone. Home repairs? Always urgent, always expensive, always requiring immediate payment. The pattern was consistent. I was good enough to fund things, but too distant to have input. Rachel had positioned herself as the sacrificial caregiver while painting me as the absent, career-obsessed sister who only contributed money. The truth? Dad had a full-time home health aide covered by his excellent insurance. Rachel visited him twice a week at most, usually to drop off groceries, which she'd expense to me later. But to hear her tell it at every family gathering, she was practically living at his house, sacrificing her own life for his care. I'd believed it for so long, sent money whenever asked, felt guilty about my distance, my career, my choices. Until 8 weeks ago, when those cruise photos changed everything. But I wasn't that naive younger sister anymore. The manipulation had escalated over the past 2 years, following a predictable pattern I'd been too trusting to see. December 2022. Dad needs emergency dental surgery. I sent $3,000 the day before my company Christmas party. Later found out his dental insurance had covered everything. March 2023. The roof is leaking. Dad could get sick from mold. $5,000 wired during my birthday weekend in Nashville. The roof had been replaced under warranty. July 2023. Dad fell, needs private physical therapy. $4,000 sent while I was closing the biggest deal of my career. Dad's Medicare covered all therapy. November 2023. House needs wheelchair modifications. $8,000 transferred the week of Thanksgiving. Dad was walking fine with his cane. February 2024. Dad's medications aren't covered anymore. $20,500 sent monthly for 3 months. His VA benefits covered everything. Each crisis perfectly timed. Always when I had something important planned. Always framed as life or death. Always making me choose between being a good daughter and living my own life. "You're not here," Rachel would remind me. "You don't see him struggling like I do." The guilt was a masterfully wielded weapon. Every family video call, she'd position Dad in poor lighting, making him look frailer. Every conversation included mentions of sacrifices, her job opportunities passed up, her social life abandoned, her own health suffering from stress. What she didn't know was that I'd kept every email, every text, every wire transfer confirmation. At first, just for tax purposes, but after the Italy incident, those records became something else entirely. My phone buzzed. Harold. "Walking in now?" I watched the entrance as Harold Brennan appeared, tall, distinguished, carrying his leather briefcase. Dad's best friend since college, his most trusted advisor. And for the past 8 weeks, my secret weapon. This time was definitely different. Standing there in my own celebration, watching Rachel perform her martyrdom, I calculated the real cost of my silence. $45,000 over 3 years. Not loans, gifts, according to Rachel. Family doesn't keep tabs, she'd always say, while keeping meticulous tabs on everyone else's obligations. That money could have been a house down payment, could have been invested, could have been the safety net I'd never had. But the financial loss wasn't the worst part. Madison's always been focused on her career, Rachel told Jennifer, my new boss, with a sympathetic smile. Some people are built for family, others for spreadsheets. No judgment, of course. Jennifer's expression shifted slightly. In corporate America, being labeled as someone who abandons family for career was poison. It suggested unreliability, questionable values, lack of balance. The other VPs were listening too. The CEO, who'd been charming 5 minutes ago, now wore a evaluative expression. My reputation was being assassinated in real time, at my own promotion dinner. Tom from accounting whispered to his wife, loud enough for others to hear, about family drama. The new interns from my department looked uncomfortable. The regional director, who'd been considering me for the Singapore project, was frowning. This was Rachel's real power play. Not just the money she'd extract, but the narrative she'd cement. Madison the selfish sister, Madison the absent daughter, Madison who chose ambition over family. That story would follow me through every professional relationship in this room. If I stayed silent tonight, I'd be funding Rachel indefinitely while wearing the scarlet letter of bad daughter in my professional circle. Every future promotion would carry whispers. Every success would be tainted. I caught Harold's eye as he found his seat. He gave me the slightest nod. This stops tonight. If you've ever been manipulated by family using guilt as a weapon, you know exactly how I felt in that moment. The hardest part isn't the money. It's the betrayal from people who should protect you. Have you experienced something similar? Drop a comment below sharing your story. And if this resonates with you, please hit that like button. It really helps other people who need to hear this find the video. Now, let me show you exactly how the Italy cancellation unfolded. The text that destroyed my Italian dream came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday. Call me now, followed immediately by emergency dad in danger. I jolted awake, heart pounding. Called immediately. Rachel was sobbing. That specific kind of sob that sounds desperate but stops cleanly between sentences. Dad owes money to dangerous people, she gasped. They came to the house tonight. What? Who? Is Dad okay? He's terrified. He won't tell me everything, but it's $13,000. They said 72 hours or else. My mind raced. Dad had always been conservative with money. Dangerous people? Dad doesn't even gamble. It's complicated. Something about a business loan from before Mom died. These aren't bank people, Madison. They knew where he lives. They mentioned us by name. We need to call the police. No! Her panic sounded real. They said no police or it gets worse. Madison, I'm scared. I can't lose Dad, too. The mention of Mom was calculated perfectly. I could barely think straight. I have maybe 2,000 in savings, Rachel continued. Brad's between jobs. You're the only one who can help. I know you have that Italy money saved. Italy. My dream trip. Flights booked, hotels reserved, museums scheduled. 3 days away. They said 72 hours or they hurt him, Madison. Cancel Italy or lose Dad. The choice felt like no choice at all. What kind of daughter chooses vacation over her father's safety? Send me the account information, I heard myself say. 20 minutes later, $13,000 left my account. The entire Italy fund plus my emergency savings. The confirmation email came through immediately. Transfer completed. Rachel texted, "You saved Dad's life. He'll pay you back when this is resolved." 3 days later, she was toasting champagne on a cruise ship. The Instagram post appeared while I was eating lunch at my desk, mourning my canceled trip. Finally, living our best life. #blessed, #family time, #cruise. Life, #deserved. Rachel stood on a balcony suite deck, Brad's arms around her, the Caribbean blue stretching endlessly behind them. Her in-laws flanked them, all four of them, drinks raised, smiling broadly. The timestamp, posted 3 hours ago. My hands shook as I scrolled through the photos. The deluxe beverage package wristbands, the specialty restaurant reservations, the spa appointments, the shore excursion in Grand Cayman where they swam with dolphins. $300 per person. The comments made it worse. Brad's mom. Thanks for treating us to this amazing trip. You two are so generous. Rachel's response. Family deserves the best. We've been saving so long for this. Then the gut punch. Dad commented, Have fun, kids. Looks beautiful. Dad, who was supposedly terrified in danger, owing money to threatening people, casually commenting on Facebook about the pretty ocean views. I called him immediately. Hi, sweetie. How's work? Dad, are you okay? Are you safe? Of course, why wouldn't I be? The money you owed. The dangerous people. Silence. Then confusion. What money? What people? Madison, what are you talking about? My stomach dropped through the floor. Rachel said you owed $13,000, that people came to the house, that you were in danger. Rachel said what? His voice sharpened. Madison, I don't owe anyone money. I haven't had a loan in 15 years, and nobody's come to the house except the Meals on Wheels lady. The room spun. She said 72 hours or else. I sent her $13,000. Dad's silence stretched long. When he spoke, his voice was cold. She's on a cruise right now, posted pictures this morning. That's when I called Harold Brennan. Harold Brennan answered on the second ring. Madison, your father mentioned you might call. Mr. Brennan, I need legal advice. It's about Rachel and some money. Come to my office, today if possible. 2 hours later, I sat across from Dad's best friend since their University of Michigan days. Harold had built a successful practice specializing in family law and financial fraud. His office walls displayed 40 years of legal victories. Show me everything, he said simply. I pulled up the emails, the text messages, the wire transfer confirmation. Harold studied them with the intensity of someone who'd seen this pattern before. This email she sent, he pointed to the screen. The one confirming she received the money, read the third paragraph. I'd never noticed it before, buried in her rambling thanks. I understand this is a loan to be repaid within 90 days as discussed. She never reads the fine print, Harold smiled slightly. You wrote this? I always include terms in my transfer confirmations. Habit from work. Smart habit. This creates a legal obligation. She acknowledged it by responding, received with thanks and agreement. He pulled out a legal pad. Your father's been worried about Rachel's spending. He asked me to review some things last month. Did you know he gave me financial power of attorney 3 years ago? I didn't. He wanted someone outside the family to oversee things if needed, someone who couldn't be emotionally manipulated. Harold's expression grew serious. Madison, your father has significant assets Rachel's been trying to access. This cruise money scheme? It's escalation. What kind of assets? Let's just say your mother's life insurance and your father's pension are both substantial. And there's something else. Your dad's been documenting things. He's sharper than Rachel thinks. My phone buzzed. Rachel, texting from the ship. Hope you're not bitter about Italy. Some sacrifices are necessary. Harold saw my expression. Save that. We'll need it. 8 weeks of preparation led to tonight. We need documentation, Harold had said, and witnesses, lots of witnesses. The promotion dinner invitation had seemed like perfect timing. 40 guests, including several who worked in legal and finance. Professional setting with security cameras. Public enough for accountability, controlled enough to maintain dignity. Invite Rachel personally, Harold advised. Make it irresistible. My text to her had been carefully crafted. Having a celebration dinner for my promotion. Companies paying, exclusive venue. Would love family there to celebrate. You and Brad should come. Open bar and 5-course meal. She'd responded within minutes. Of course we'll support you. Family shows up. The irony wasn't lost on me. I'd arranged the seating strategically. Harold at a table with clear sightlines. My colleague from legal affairs, Patricia Chen, positioned nearby. The restaurant's manager, briefed discreetly, had ensured security cameras were functioning and well positioned. What if she doesn't bring it up? I'd asked Harold. She will. The promotion, the public setting, the audience, she won't resist. It's the perfect stage for maximum guilt and pressure. He'd been right, of course. I'd also prepared something special. My laptop, already connected to the restaurant's presentation screen for the promotion slideshow, contained a folder labeled Family Memories. Inside were documents that told a very different story than Rachel's narrative. Perfect, Rachel had texted this morning. Brad's coming too. We have something important to discuss. Of course they did. They always had something important to discuss when they smelled money. Now, watching Harold settle into his seat while Rachel held court, I felt the calm that comes with thorough preparation. Every document backed up in triplicate, every email archived, every legal requirement met. Rachel wanted an audience for her performance. She was about to get one. Rachel stood up, tapping her champagne glass for attention. The room quieted, assuming another toast was coming. I hate to mix family business with celebration, she began, not hating it at all. But some things can't wait. Jennifer, my boss, set down her fork. The CEO leaned back in his chair. Everyone sensed the shift. While Madison's been achieving all this professional success, she gestured around the room, some of us have been handling the unglamorous work, the daily caregiving, the sacrifice of our own dreams. Rachel, I said quietly, this isn't the time. When is the time, Madison? You're always too busy, too many meetings, too many business trips. She turned to address the room. Our father is 78 years old. He needs constant care, medications, doctor visits, someone to make sure he eats. Brad stood beside her, his rehearsed support ready. Rachel gave up her career to care for him. We've depleted our savings. While Madison climbs the corporate ladder, we're drowning in caregiving costs. Some people forget where they come from, Rachel continued, her voice catching dramatically. Success makes them forget family, but care facilities cost $4,000 a month, home health aides, medical equipment. It adds up. Several relatives shifted uncomfortably. Aunt Patricia whispered to Uncle James. The judgment was palpable. Successful sister ignoring family needs while elderly father suffered. We're not asking for much, Rachel's voice rose. Just $2,000 a month. That's probably what Madison spends on her designer handbags. I didn't own a single designer handbag. Family takes care of family, she repeated, louder now. Or at least they should. The room was completely silent. 40 pairs of eyes on me. My professional reputation hanging in the balance. Rachel pulled out her phone. Should I show everyone the cruise we had to take? The one tiny break we've had in 3 years of constant caregiving? She had no idea what she'd just walked into. Rachel swiped through her phone, projecting martyrdom with every gesture. Look at this. 3 years ago, Dad's birthday. Who was there? Me? She showed a photo to the nearest table. Last Christmas? Me? Easter? Me again. The photos were carefully curated, I noticed. All from the same few visits, just posted at different times on social media to create an illusion of constant presence. Brad jumped in, addressing the CEO directly. Family is everything, right? I'm sure you understand, sir. Those of us who stay close to home, we see the daily struggles. Madison wouldn't know. She moved away for her career. Several colleagues looked uncomfortable. The narrative was setting. Heartless career woman abandons aging father. These are from last month, Rachel continued, showing more photos. Dad's medical appointments. Guess who took him? Not Madison. Aunt Patricia nodded sympathetically. It's hard being the only one who shows up. Exactly. Rachel seized the support. And now with this promotion, Madison's making what, 200,000? More? While we're going into debt keeping Dad safe and comfortable. My actual salary was nowhere near that. But corrections would sound defensive. We've had to sell things, Brad added. Family heirlooms, my car. But we do it because that's what love looks like. Jennifer watched me carefully, evaluating how I'd handle this crisis. The Singapore project lead was definitely reconsidering. Two interns looked like they wanted to disappear. Rachel moved closer to my table. I have all the receipts, Madison. 3 years of expenses you've ignored, doctor visits you've missed, medications you haven't helped with. She placed her phone on the table, showing a photo of Dad looking particularly frail. This was last week. While you were planning this party, I was managing his new heart medication. The photo was 3 years old. Dad's hair was darker then, though she'd applied a filter to hide it. Time for truth. This is the moment everything changed. When someone tries to humiliate you publicly, thinking you'll cave to social pressure, they forget one thing. Truth is more powerful than manipulation. If you're finding value in this story, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. I share real-life stories about setting boundaries and standing up for yourself every week. Also, what would you have done in my position? Let me know in the comments. Now, here comes the part Rachel never saw coming. I stood up slowly, reaching for my laptop. Let's talk about facts, shall we? The presentation screen behind me, which had been displaying congratulatory messages, switched to a new display. Email threads filled the screen, dates clearly visible. February 15th, 2:47 a.m. I clicked the first email. Rachel writes, Dad owes dangerous people money. Need $13,000 in 72 hours or else. My response? Wire transfer confirmation, same day. Gasps rippled through the room, Rachel's face drained of color. February 18th, 3 days later. Next slide. Royal Caribbean booking confirmation, $13,200, booked by Rachel Bradley, same-day purchase using the exact amount I transferred. The cruise photos appeared next. Rachel and Brad, champagne glasses raised. The timestamp showed them already at sea while she was still texting me about Dad's ongoing danger. But here's the interesting part. I clicked again. Dad's Facebook comment on those cruise photos. Have fun, kids. Strange message from someone supposedly in fear for his life. Jennifer leaned forward. The CEO had put on his reading glasses. Every eye was fixed on the screen. March through April. More emails appeared. Rachel requesting monthly support for Dad's care. But look at these bank statements. Dad's account, which Harold Brennan manages as financial power of attorney. The statements showed steady deposits, healthy balances, Medicare payments, pension deposits, VA benefits, every medical expense covered, every prescription paid by insurance, home health aid fully funded by his policy. I paused, letting it sink in. So where did my $45,000 over 3 years actually go? The next slide answered that question. Screenshots of Rachel's social media, new cars, vacation photos, shopping sprees, each conveniently timed after my emergency transfers. Rachel stood frozen, her mouth opening and closing without sound. Should we discuss the receipts now? I asked calmly. Harold Brennan stood up from his table, his presence immediately commanding attention. Perhaps I should introduce myself. Harold Brennan, senior partner at Brennan and Associates. I've been the Foster family's legal advisor for 30 years. Rachel's face went from pale to ashen. Harold, this isn't... I'm also, he continued, walking toward the center of the room, Robert Foster's designated financial power of attorney, a role he requested I take 3 years ago due to concerns about financial exploitation. He pulled documents from his briefcase. Ms. Bradley, you claimed your father owes dangerous people money. I can confirm, having full access to his financial records, that Robert Foster has no debts. Zero. His credit report, which I pulled yesterday, shows no loans, no credit cards, no obligations whatsoever. Brad started to speak, but Harold raised a hand. Furthermore, the alleged threatening visitors you described? Robert's home has a Ring doorbell system I helped install. I've reviewed all footage from February. No unusual visitors, no threats, nothing but the Meals on Wheels volunteer and the mailman. The room was dead silent. This constitutes wire fraud, Mrs. Bradley. Harold's voice carried the weight of 40 years of legal practice. Using false pretenses to obtain money through electronic transfer. Federal crime. Up to 20 years imprisonment and fines up to $1 million. You can't prove, Rachel started. Your email acknowledgement of receiving the funds includes your agreement that it was a loan to be repaid in 90 days. That was 60 days ago. The payment is now due. Harold placed a document on the table. This is a formal demand for repayment. Jennifer whispered something to the CEO. Several people were recording on their phones. The intern's table looked collectively stunned. But there's more, Harold said, his tone growing graver. Should we discuss the $78,000 you've already taken from your father's accounts before he granted me oversight? My phone rang, displaying Dad on the screen. I'd been expecting this call. Put him on speaker, Harold suggested. Dad's voice filled the room, clear and strong, nothing like the frail victim Rachel had portrayed. Madison, is everyone there? Yes, Dad. You're on speaker. Good. Rachel, I know you're listening. His tone was disappointed but firm. I need everyone to hear this directly from me. I am not in danger. I have never owed money to dangerous people. I'm financially secure and well cared for. Rachel tried to interrupt. Daddy, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. You told Madison I was in danger to steal her vacation money. You've been taking money from her for 3 years using my name. That ends tonight. The room was riveted. This wasn't just family drama, it was a complete unmasking. I have copies of every text you sent Madison, Dad continued. Every fake emergency. Every manipulated photo where you used filters to make me look sicker. I also have the real receipts. The ones showing my medical expenses are fully covered, not the doctored ones you've been sending Madison. How did you— My Ring doorbell isn't the only camera, Rachel. I installed a full security system after Mom passed. I have video of you and Brad in my home office, going through my files, photographing my medical cards. I have you on audio planning which emergency to use next. Several guests gasped. Aunt Patricia covered her mouth. The relatives who'd been supporting Rachel minutes ago now leaned away from her. I'm disappointed in you, Rachel. Your mother would be heartbroken. Madison has been nothing but generous, and you've repaid her with lies and theft. Rachel's legs seemed to give out. She sank into a chair, her face crumbling. But Dad wasn't finished. Harold placed a document in front of Rachel. This is a repayment agreement, $13,000 within 30 days. Sign now, or we file charges Monday morning. I can't pay that back, Rachel whispered. You had money for a cruise, I said quietly. You'll find money for this. Harold continued with professional precision. The wire fraud charge alone carries 5 years federal prison time. Add conspiracy with your husband, interstate fraud since Madison lives in another state, and elder abuse for using your father's name, we're looking at potentially 15 years. Brad grabbed the papers. This is extortion. No, Harold corrected. Extortion is threatening someone's father to steal $13,000. This is a legal remedy to fraud. Your choice, sign and repay, or explain to a federal judge why you thought this was acceptable. The CEO of my company spoke up. I can confirm that our legal department would fully support Ms. Foster in pursuing criminal charges. We take fraud seriously, especially when it affects our employees. Jennifer added, our corporate counsel would be happy to assist Mr. Brennan if needed. The walls were closing in. Rachel looked around the room desperately, finding no sympathy. Even Brad's parents, who'd been invited last minute, looked disgusted. 30 days, I said, maintaining eye contact with Rachel. Not 31, not 60, 30, or Harold files charges. Rachel's hand shook as she signed. Brad signed as co-guarantor, his face purple with rage. One more thing, Harold announced. Any further contact with Madison outside of this repayment constitutes harassment. Any defamation on social media or elsewhere will result in additional civil action. Are we clear? Rachel nodded, unable to speak. I need verbal confirmation, Harold insisted. Clear, she croaked. Mr. Bradley? Yeah, clear, Brad muttered. Harold collected the signed documents. 30 days. Rachel erupted like a volcano that had been building pressure for years. You selfish bitch! She shot up from her chair, knocking over a water glass. You've ruined everything! Everything! The professional atmosphere shattered. Guests pulled back as Rachel's composure completely dissolved. I gave up my life for this family, my career, my dreams. She was screaming now, mascara streaming down her face. You got to leave. You got to build your perfect life while I was stuck. Brad tried to grab her arm. Rachel, stop! She yanked away from him. No! She needs to hear this. Madison, the perfect daughter. Madison, the success story. You don't know what it's like. Ma'am, I need you to calm down. The restaurant manager had appeared, security flanking him. Rachel spun toward the crowd. She's destroying her own sister, her family, over money she doesn't even need. As she gestured wildly, her Hermes bag fell from the table, spilling its contents. The authentication card fluttered out. Except it wasn't an authentication card. It was a poorly printed replica, the kind that comes with $20 knockoffs from Canal Street. Someone laughed, then another. The facade was crumbling in real time. This isn't over, Rachel shrieked as Brad finally managed to pull her toward the exit. You'll regret this, Madison. Family doesn't forget. No, I said calmly, loud enough for everyone to hear. Family doesn't steal. Security escorted them out as Rachel's screams echoed through the restaurant. Through the windows, we could see her in the parking lot, still yelling, still gesturing, while Brad tried to get her into their car, a leased BMW they'd been 3 months behind on payments for. The room remained silent for a long moment after they left. Then, slowly, someone started clapping. The video went viral within 12 hours. Someone at table 6 had captured everything. Rachel's meltdown, the fake Hermes reveal, her being escorted out screaming. By morning, it had 300,000 views on TikTok with the caption, Sister tries to shake down sibling at promotion dinner, gets exposed. The community impact was swift and brutal. Rachel's church Facebook group, where she'd portrayed herself as the sacrificial caregiver, saw the video. The comments were devastating. We took up a collection for her last month. She said her sister abandoned the family. I gave her $500 for her father's medicine. Her MLM essential oils team, her small business family, started dropping like flies. 17 downline distributors left within 3 days. Her Instagram, where she'd cultivated an image of struggle and sacrifice, hemorrhaged followers. The cruise photos were screenshot and reshared with caustic commentary. Brad's employer, a regional bank, received concerned calls about having someone involved in fraud working in their mortgage department. HR launched an investigation Monday morning. The extended family group chat exploded. Cousins who'd loaned Rachel money over the years suddenly wanted it back. Aunt Patricia revealed Rachel had borrowed $8,000 for Dad's emergency surgery 6 months ago. Uncle James mentioned the $5,000 for house repairs that never happened. The tally was staggering. Rachel had taken nearly $100,000 from various family members using Dad's name. She told me you refused to help, Cousin Linda texted me. Said you were too selfish to care about Dad. Every lie was unraveling. Every manipulation exposed. But the real consequences were just beginning. Tuesday morning, Harold called with an update that changed everything. Madison, you need to know something. The IRS has questions about Rachel's unreported income. Day 29 arrived with a wire transfer notification, $13,000 paid in full. The memo line read, "Loan repayment as agreed." Harold called immediately. She took out a HELOC on their house, 23% interest rate because their credit is shot. The financial dominoes were falling fast. Rachel and Brad's credit scores, already marginal, plummeted after the hard inquiry and high-interest loan. Their BMW was repossessed on day 15 when they couldn't make the back payments. Brad's mother, who'd co-signed their apartment lease, revoked her guarantee after seeing the video. The IRS situation was worse. All those gifts from family members over the years, unreported income, the cruise, purchased with what they'd claimed was tax-exempt caregiving support. The investigation triggered an audit going back 5 years. "You've ruined everything," Rachel texted from a blocked number. Harold screenshot it immediately. Violation of the no-contact agreement. Royal Caribbean denied their refund request for the cruise. Services were rendered as purchased. The $8,000 they'd spent on that trip was gone forever. Brad's bank terminated his employment on day 21. Violation of the Employee Code of Conduct regarding financial integrity. Without his income, they couldn't qualify to refinance the HELOC to a lower rate. The MLM company formally terminated Rachel's distributorship after multiple complaints from her former downline about financial misrepresentation. Her inventory, $12,000 of essential oils bought on credit, sat unsellable in their garage. But perhaps the most satisfying consequence came from an unexpected source. The nursing home where Rachel had claimed to spend every day caring for residents, part of her martyrdom narrative, called Harold. They'd seen the video. They wanted to clarify that Rachel had never volunteered there, despite using their name in several fundraising posts. Every lie had a price, and the bill had come due. The first honest conversation with Dad happened 3 days after the dinner. "I should have protected you better," he said over video call, his voice heavy with regret. "I saw what Rachel was doing, but I hoped she'd stop on her own." "You were protecting yourself too, Dad. She was manipulating all of us. When your mother was sick, Rachel promised to help with her care. Instead, she was taking money from your mother's purse. Small amounts, 20 here, 50 there. Your mother knew but didn't want to cause problems." He paused. "I should have stopped it then." The family dynamics shifted completely. Cousins who'd avoided me, thinking I was the cold career woman, started reaching out. "We had no idea," became the common refrain. "She was so convincing." Thanksgiving came 6 months later, the first without Rachel. It was smaller but infinitely more peaceful. Dad flew out to stay with me, his first trip in 3 years. He was healthier than Rachel's photos had ever shown, walking 2 miles daily, sharp as ever. "I've updated my will," he told me over turkey. "Harold has everything documented. Rachel gets nothing. Not because I'm angry, but because she's already taken more than her share." The relatives who attended were different too. The ones who'd always been kind but quiet, overshadowed by Rachel's dramatics. Aunt Patricia apologized for believing the lies. Uncle James brought his famous pie and stories about Dad's college days I'd never heard because Rachel always dominated conversations. "You know what I realized?" Dad said as we walked after dinner. "Rachel inherited your mother's anxiety, but none of her kindness. You got both her strength and her heart." For the first time in years, family felt like family, supportive, genuine, drama-free. "I'm proud of you," Dad said simply, "for standing up, for stopping the cycle." Setting boundaries transformed everything. The new rule was simple: no family loans. Ever. If Dad needed something, it went through Harold with full documentation. If relatives had emergencies, I'd provide information about resources, not cash. The First National Bank of Madison was permanently closed. I started therapy to unpack years of manipulation. "You were trained from childhood to be the provider," my therapist explained. "Rachel learned early that your guilt was currency. Understanding the pattern made it easier to break." Every urgent request became a red flag. Every guilt trip lost its power. No became a complete sentence. No justification required, no apology needed. Work improved dramatically. Jennifer pulled me aside a month after the dinner. That took courage. Real leadership isn't just about presentations and profits. It's about standing for principles even when it's uncomfortable. The Singapore project was mine. The promotion stuck. My reputation, rather than being damaged, was enhanced. Someone who can handle that with such grace can handle anything, the CEO had said. I created an actual emergency fund for Dad, a trust managed by Harold with clear guidelines. Medical emergencies only, every expense documented, no cash withdrawals. It protected Dad from future exploitation while ensuring his real needs were met. The therapy revealed something else. I'd been buying love, thinking money equaled care. Real love doesn't have a price tag. It shows up in phone calls, visits, genuine concern, things Rachel never offered despite living 20 minutes from Dad. 6 months later, I finally felt free. Free from guilt, free from manipulation, free from the exhausting cycle of crisis and payment. Boundaries aren't walls, my therapist said. They're gates. You decide who gets access and on what terms. The most expensive lesson of my life became the most valuable. 1 year later, I stood on a Venice bridge watching sunset paint the canal gold. But this time, I wasn't alone. Dad stood beside me, his camera capturing the light on ancient buildings. His first international trip ever, at 79 years old. Your mother always wanted to see this, he said quietly. We kept saying, next year, until there were no more years. We'd planned this trip properly. Harold managing Dad's home care, medical clearances obtained, every detail arranged. The trip I'd canceled for Rachel's lies had become something better. A father-daughter journey neither of us had imagined. I got an email, Dad mentioned over dinner at a small trattoria. Rachel wanted to apologize. Says she's in therapy now. I'd received the same email. 3 pages of justification disguised as apology. How hard her life had been. How unfair everything was. How she'd been driven to desperation. No real accountability, just more manipulation in a softer package. Did you respond? I asked. No. Harold says any contact could reset the legal timeline. Besides, he raised his wine glass. I'm busy living my life. We toasted to that, to boundaries held, to trips finally taken, to relationships built on truth rather than guilt. My promotion had led to another, then another. The Singapore project launched successfully. My career, freed from constant financial and emotional drain, flourished beyond what I'd imagined. But sitting in that Venice restaurant, watching Dad try gelato for the first time, laughing at his expression of wonder, this was the real victory. Not the money recovered or the promotion saved, but this moment of genuine connection, unmarred by manipulation or crisis. Some prices are worth paying for freedom, I told Dad, thinking of everything the last year had cost and given. And some freedoms, he replied, are priceless. Thank you for staying until the end of my story. If you've ever struggled with setting boundaries with toxic family members, know that you're not alone. Your peace of mind is worth more than keeping the peace. What's the hardest boundary you've had to set with family? Share in the comments below. Your story might help someone else find their courage. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more content about standing up for yourself with dignity. And remember, family doesn't mean accepting financial abuse. Until next time, protect your peace.